This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, and you're listening to Python's Paradise, your film and music show. And this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, you know, back in October, I did a record of 8 interviews, and one of them happened to be with Lynne Griffin of Black Christmas and Curtains fame. And she was not only a lovely lady who's done Theatre New Brunswick here, which was an interesting little tidbit, but she opened the doors to a lot of people to contact. And I come to discover her husband is somebody I'm familiar with too, but didn't know it until I interviewed her. And he's giggling there in the background, and I'm going to introduce Sean Sullivan, the wonderful comedic Sean Sullivan. How you doing, Sean?
I'm great. How are you, Greg?
I'm doing fantastic. I gotta say, you know, like, I remember you from Ski Patrol, out of all things, and which one of the personalities did she marry?
All of them.
All of them? So yeah. She has to put up with the wimpy side and the grumpy side?
Yeah, you know, it's the way it goes. You get the whole package.
Well, she said she did Theatre New Brunswick here. Have you been to Fredericton? Have you been to New Brunswick?
I have never been to New Brunswick.
I was honored to hear that she's been here, you know. I always ask my guests, you know, if they know where we are.
Well, I know where you are, but not from personal experience.
Well, and I always say this to my guests, about the closest we got to celebrities is the Trailer Park Boys, and if they know who they are, then they're close to knowing who we are. When are you and Lynn go get on the Trailer Park Boys?
Pardon?
When are you and Lynn go get on the Trailer Park Boys?
We're on the Trailer Park Boys? When are we on it?
No, when are you guys going to get on it? I think they could use you guys.
Oh, man. Well, you know, just let them know. We're ready.
I'm trying to get them to come on here. I don't know whether it's the weed or whatnot, but
they just can't remember.
They can't remember. But I'm glad, you know, that you guys remembered coming on here today. And Sean Sullivan, we're going to celebrate your career. I did want to ask, you was telling me before we started recording, what is in production right now?
Well, we're getting ready to do a Southern Ontario tour of an original show called A Christmas Carol Comedy, which is a 2-person show. The other actor, Jesse Buck, who is a former Cirque du Soleil clown, is playing Ebenezer Scrooge, and I am playing everybody else.
Well, you've got the skill there.
It's an amazing, funny version of the story, and it whips by in about an hour. And I play the whole Cratchit family, all the ghosts. I play his sister, his girlfriend from his youth, Mrs. Cratchit, and then the rest of them are all guys.
You play even the females. You're getting in the Eddie Murphy Nutty Professor zone here.
Yeah, really. Yeah, it's really fun, and we're playing in Collingwood, Simcoe, Hamilton, and someplace else that I can't think of right now.
New Brunswick?
I wish.
Well, that's usually the place people don't think of.
Maybe next year.
Well, there you go. Well, that'd be great. But you mentioned multiple personalities. I got to start here with Ski Patrol because sure. It's been so long since I've seen that. But yet I remember you so well in that film. And I personally, I think the film should have been about your character's suicide because, you know, you had the 2 other personalities, the wimpy side and the grumpy side. And it was the first time I ever heard the term candy ass.
Oh, yes, candy ass. Yeah, that was the grumpy guy.
Yeah, that was the first time I heard that. Give us a little impression. I want to hear you do those voices.
Well, sort of the first guy is just sort of a, kind of ski bum, kind of, likes to live on the edge. His catchphrase was taste death, live life. And his two other personalities were a wimpy guy who sort of talked like that and was kind of scared of everything. And the other guy was this big, tough, unpleasant guy. And it's funny, I can't remember his name, but I can remember what he talked like.
Yeah, this is the first time I heard the phrase candy ass. I never mentioned. I hear it all the time now, but you were the first one.
Wow. I popularized a phrase.
There you go. No, I thought you were hysterical in that movie, and I looked it up before when I was taking notes for this interview, and some memories were all coming through with some of the cast and people that are in that. But I think they should have made the movie about suicide.
Well, I would have been all into that. Yeah.
So, how did you get that role?
We were living in Los Angeles, and it started with a single audition. There were about 3 auditions, and it was basically, seeing if I could convincingly play 3 people who all live in one body. And the director, Rich Carell, was a really playful guy, and we had great fun in the auditions and even more fun on the set. And it was because we were literally making up scenes sometimes while we were filming, and it was just about as much fun as I could imagine working on a movie set.
I remember when you were going downhill and during the climax, and you went up in the air, and I heard the wimpy side say, "I think I peed my pants." Was that right? Did I remember that right?
Yeah, you remembered it exactly correctly. It all comes flooding back to me when you say it.
Yeah, I remember you so well in that movie, and like I said, they should have made it all about him. And I'm not trying to deflate any of the other people in the movie, but every time you're on screen, you're like the Wile E. Coyote with Yosemite Sam mixed in and Tasmanian Devil.
I love it.
Yeah, but yeah, that was there any scenes in that were hard to do?
Well, literally the first day we were filming, we were on the mountain. We were filming in Utah, and we're filming in Park City, Utah. And we're on the mountain, and basically a blizzard came up. And we're sitting on the mountain with almost zero visibility, and kept trying to decide whether we were actually going to film anything. We ended up filming nothing on that first day, but I got a real taste of what it's like to be literally stuck on a mountain with nothing to do except just being pummeled by snow. And but it was a lot easier after that. But that first day was tricky.
Well, Suicide wouldn't have cared.
No, not at all. I mean, yeah, he was ready to go. In fact, no, as I recall now, we did try to film some stuff. And basically, I was on a kind of a board because they were filming close up. I wasn't actually on a snowboard, but I was on sort of a rig that in front was a snowmobile, and then a little trailer that I was on, and the camera was on the snowmobile, filming me playing the 3 guys having a whale of a time going down the mountain. And we kept trying to film it, but it was just the snow was flying in my face, and they finally went, you know what, we're not even seeing an image on the screen. It's just seeing snow. So yeah, Suicide was ready to go, but we weren't getting anything on the camera, so we had to stop.
Was Roger Rose, was he the antagonist, or not? The protagonist in the film?
He was the protagonist, yeah.
He was the one that was fiddling with a zipper there at the beginning of the film, huh?
Right, when he was going to do his, they were doing the duel. Oh, it's he and Corby Timbrook? Can't remember who played the nemesis.
Yeah, and he kept jerking the zipper up and down, up and down.
Yep.
I remember that. What was he like?
Roger was great. I mean, he was just really easygoing guy. He had been a stand-up comic, and he'd also been a VH1 VJ.
Okay.
And he just had a really easygoing manner, which was helpful because, we were filming most of it outside in the winter, and, you kind of needed a sense of humor because of the conditions. And Roger was unflappable, just, really, really pleasant guy. Another guy who was in that, who has gone on to great fame as a director, was Paul Feig.
Yeah.
And who became more or less my best friend while working on The Mountain, and also we continued to work on projects of our own once we got back to Los Angeles. And because we were literally sitting on the mountain one day when we were, stuck in another snowstorm, and we started quoting favorite lines from the comic Lenny Bruce, and we both knew the same routines, and it was like, I think I found my friend on this movie. And Paul, just one of the nicest, smartest people I ever known, and of course he just directed the new Ghostbusters, and he directed Bridesmaids. And
you could have been all the bridesmaids.
I know, but for some reason he went and cast that, Kristen Wiig person, Melissa McCarthy.
What do you think of the new Ghostbusters?
Well, I really enjoyed it. I know it didn't do as well as some people hoped, but for me it was exactly like the originals in the sense that it's not asking you to take it as a serious, important movie. I just thought it was a lot of fun in the same way that the original was. And the first time they said light them up when they were gonna fire their ghost guns, I forget what they're called,
proton packs.
Yeah. I thought it was great, and I know it was a ton of work for Paul, and he was also dealing with the pressure of everyone going, "Oh, you're directing a remake of Ghostbusters. Well, that'll never work." But no, I really enjoyed it.
I gotta say, I think Kate McKinnon's hysterical. I loved her.
Oh, I think she's brilliant.
Yeah,
she's so funny and so smart.
And let's face it, Chris Hemsworth, what a great comedic turn for him.
I know. Who knew that? Yeah, that he had those kind of comedy chops.
Yeah, I thought it was underrated. I thought the original is still the best, but I thought it was better than Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I do too. And you're always dealing with when you're trying to remake something that was already great. You're dealing with a lot of expectations and stuff. But yeah, I thought it was right up there.
Well, and everybody returned except for Rick Moranis. He did not make a cameo, but.
Yeah. I'm not sure why, and I haven't talked to Paul about that in particular. But we were talking back and forth because I'm actually working on staging a play that Paul wrote back in the 90s, and we were talking a lot while he was in post-production, and but mainly the conversation was, I am working so hard, this is exhausting, I'll never do one like this again. That's sort of how Paul felt at that point. But yeah, he didn't mention why Rick didn't show up, but I'm not sure why.
Yeah, but I think Paul Feig. Yeah, I saw his name in the credits for Ski Patrol, and like I said, it's been a while since I've seen Ski Patrol, and I was like, gee, Paul Feig. He just with Bridesmaids alone, like he just burst out of nowhere, and now he's very hot.
Well, he also created the series Freaks and Geeks.
Yes, he did. That's right.
Which sort of was the beginning of his directing, writing success. And the funny story is that I was doing a play in New York. Paul said he was going to be in New York, so we met up. It turns out he had been driving across the U.S. trying to get distribution for a feature film that he made with his own money, and he couldn't get anyone to buy it. It just went nowhere, and he was so depressed. And he said, I'm thinking of getting out of the business. And I was like, well, that's too bad, but think about it. Anyway, on the way home, driving back from New York to California, he sat down and wrote a script about high school, the high school experiences he had. And on that draft, he sold that to NBC, and that was Freaks and Geeks. Okay. So he went from being basically at the lowest point of his career to the highest. in a matter of moments. And I couldn't be happier for him, because he's just really one of the most genuinely pleasant and intelligent people I ever met in the movie business. So
wow. Yeah, he's definitely done some great stuff, and
sure has.
I thought the new Ghostbusters was all right. A lot of people were iffy or whatever, but you know what?
Yeah.
It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with that he's a very slick director, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows how to direct women well too.
He sure does, and he writes well for women, because he also writes the scripts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, also in Ski Patrol, the lovely and beautiful Yvette Nipper.
Yes, and I don't really know what happened with Yvette. I know she did some films and TV afterwards, but I've kind of lost track of. Well, actually, I've lost track with most of those people, other than Paul.
It's funny because I was looking up some of these people yesterday, and I came across the video of Yvette. I guess she was in the RoboCop TV series, and I saw her. She was tied up in the back of a van next to a bomb, and I'm like, she's seen better days.
Yeah, time passes.
Yeah. And of course, T.K. Carter had one of those funny jokes in the movie where he's standing there and he's being nudged, and he opens his eyes, and I guess he had eyes painted on his eyes.
Yep. Open. Yeah, so that he could have his eyes closed and he'd look awake. Yeah.
And George Lopez, and of course Ray Walston.
It was one of Ray Walston's last movies, and which was, he was great, because we'd be, in the transport van, and we had to have moved location from Park City to Snowbird, a different ski hill, and I just sat and asked him questions about working on Broadway in the 1950s, and he had total recall from all those years back, and told great stories, and he was almost legally blind by the time we did that movie, and that's why in most of the scenes when you see him outside, he has very heavy sunglasses on.
Oh.
Because he could barely see, and the light from the on the mountain was so bright that he basically had to have these heavy duty shades on, and basically he memorized his steps where he had to walk and stuff, because he more or less couldn't see. But you'd never know.
I didn't know that.
Just a real professional, and I can make it work. And lovely man.
Did he say, "Aloha, my name is Mr. Hand"?
Never did.
I remember him from Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yep.
Loved him in that.
Yep, me too.
But yeah, Ski Patrol, one of those movies that, like I said, haven't seen it in a while. Remember You So Well, and I look at some of these names and I'm remembering some scenes from this movie, and like I said, it really showed some great broad work out of you in terms of the three personalities that you had to carry throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a great opportunity. You don't get to play that kind of range in movies very often, and I was thrilled to get the chance, because I kind of grew up kind of liking that idea of playing multiple characters, and growing up on like Monty Python and things like that, where you're seeing these guys who love to play as many different characters as they can, and I just always love doing that, and to actually get an opportunity to do that in a movie was just terrific.
Yeah, and of course, probably your biggest hit is Wayne's World. Now, there you go. What was that experience like?
Well, first of all, Mike Myers is he's just like a guy from Scarborough, Ontario. Is just very easygoing, nice person to be around. We used to bring guitars to the set and just jam, and he was just first rate, and it was a long time. It took about 7 weeks, but we had to come in on time because Mike Myers and Dana Carvey were still doing Saturday Night Live, and the movie was shot during their hiatus. And basically, the week we finished, they had to immediately fly to New York for rehearsals for the first episode of Saturday Night Live for the season. So there was no time for things to go over, which, usually with films, things, often go longer than expected. But they literally had no option. It's like we had to get everything done in that 7 weeks. And at times it was a bit of a push, but you just have, these amazing, not only comic, but improvisational actors that, can just come up with stuff on the fly. And, it certainly deserved, I think, the attention that it got, because it was just, some really great comic minds just working at full steam.
Yeah, and of course, he went on, to do Austin Powers, and of course he played a small dramatic role in Inglourious Basterds. I mean, he's a fine actor.
Well, he also did the movie 54, which was about.
I was just going to bring that up too.
Yeah.
54, and you play Andy Warhol in it.
Yeah, it was just a little part as Andy Warhol, but it was great to catch up with Mike, because I hadn't seen him in some years, and I'd moved from L.A. to Toronto in the meantime, and it was great seeing him in Toronto, which was more or less home, and and seeing him playing a dramatic part. But yeah, he certainly has the ability to play dramatic as well as comic.
One thing I wanted to bring up, I think 54 was incredibly underrated. I've got it home on Blu-ray. I loved it. And
I did too, yeah.
Yeah, but I heard that they're supposed to come out with a special edition, uncut version of that. Did you hear anything about that?
No, I haven't, but I can imagine like a director's cut or something, because I think they pulled back on showing some of it, because the time period was pretty wild, and there were things that I think they filmed that they weren't sure they wanted to put out in the movie theaters. But now that it's putting it out on DVD and doing a new version, that to show the movie the way that the director writer Mark Christopher,
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
To put out the movie that he originally intended, I think that's great. That's great. I hadn't heard that, but that's great to hear.
Well, I think, and don't quote me, I know that Howard Stern is friends with Ryan Phillippe, and
right.
I think it was Ryan Phillippe that might have disclosed that information. Don't quote me on it, but I think that was him that said it. But
well, that would be great.
Yeah, and it really captured the 70s. And, of course, you also had Neve Campbell and Selma Hayek in that as well.
Yeah. No, it's quite a cast.
Yeah. But I would love to see an uncut version of 54. I thought the movie, very underrated, didn't do well when it came out, but it did gain a cult following later on, and sometimes that's where it counts.
Yeah, for long term, that's absolutely where it counts. And it was great because they literally recreated the interior of Studio 54 in a studio here in Toronto. And what a crazy place. I can't even imagine what it was like in the actual day, because it was, even just doing the pretend version of it was intense. You went, my God, this actually happened. This was a crazy time.
Did you have any interactions with Selma Hayek or Neve Campbell in that?
I didn't have any. Well, there was a group scene with everybody that we were all in. But I remember I was just sort of kind of dozing in the makeup room, and Selma was sort of sitting off to the side, and we're both just sort of fairly exhausted, and had this just very sort of loose, easygoing conversation. And I don't think I was even aware of who it was I was talking to, but it was just this nice woman who was very beautiful and wanted to talk, and we just had this the way you talk with people you're working with when you're all just really tired. You're just looking for something to distract you and to keep you awake. And she was lovely. She was very nice. I also had a nice talk with Michael York, who
Okay.
was in it.
Oh, that's right. He was in Cabaret. Am I getting the right actor there?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, that's
And
right.
a lot of sort of, fairly big movies in the 60s and into the 70s, The Three Musketeers, and I think there was a sequel too. And just talking to him even briefly was like, one of my heroes from that sort of, swinging 60s London movie scene. And so that was great. That was a great opportunity.
Well, going back to Wayne's World, of course, Dana Carvey was recently interviewed by Howard Stern as well, and hearing his health battles as of recently, but he sounded good. Of course, playing Garth, and you also had some interesting supporting players. Like I'm gonna try to get this woman's name right, Tia Carrere.
Tia Carrere.
Carrere. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Did you work any with her?
A little bit, but her scenes were primarily with Mike and her band. So we were sort of around each other, but I didn't really spend any time with her just because, it's like your scenes don't revolve around each other. So it's like you're sort of there and you see each other, but we didn't really have that much to do with each other.
And of course, Rob Lowe in that as well.
Rob Lowe. My first day on set was, my first scene was leaning against Rob Lowe, drooling, because Phil was either drunk or hungover all the time in the movie.
Yeah.
And they put egg whites in my mouth so that I was drooling this rather horrible, viscous fluid out the side of my mouth. So I'm drooling this stuff on Rob Lowe's shoulder. And Mike and Dana were doing one of the, one of the Wayne's World, the TV show itself scenes. And I went, well, here I am. I'm drooling on a big star, watching a couple other big stars doing something, and I'm part of it. This is pretty great.
Another person that was in that movie too. It's done quite well, and he's not in Wayne's World a lot, but when he's in there, you notice him because he just dominates the screen. Is Ed O'Neill.
Oh, he was wonderful.
I love Married with Children. He played Al Bundy, of course.
Yep. No, and he was very funny as the guy at the diner with his very dark personality.
Yeah, very Al Bundy-like.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was looking over your credits, and I noticed that it said that the first, I don't know if this was the first feature you did, but you did Who's That Girl? Now, I actually have never seen Who's That Girl. So what was your part in that?
I played a gun dealer, and my scenes were all just with Madonna, and she's basically looking to buy some guns at one point, and it's sort of an homage to Taxi Driver, because there's a scene where Travis Bickle is buying all of his guns, and so this was sort of a comic version of the same scene. And that's where I learned how to fire an AK-47, because I had one in the scene, and then Griffin Dunn, who played the boyfriend in it, comes running into my little slum apartment, and I just start firing off the AK-47 at everybody. And I do remember, though, that my first impression when Madonna came on set was, this woman is even more beautiful than I've ever seen her on screen. The most sort of piercing green eyes, and just truly beautiful. I would say she's a combination of very funny and engaging and kind of frustrating to work with at the same time.
Oh.
Yeah, well, and she'd had a reputation for that. That she could be a challenge to work with, because she tended to sort of want things her own way, and it slowed things down sometimes. But I feel very fortunate to have had that time with her, and she actually came into the makeup trailer one day, back then with a cassette deck, to play the song that she recorded and done for the movie, the song Who's That Girl? And I got to hear it probably before almost anyone in the world did, because she was just bringing it and making sure going, she wants to do the song. So it which was very sweet. And when we finished, it was near this time of year, and she wished me Merry Christmas, and it was a heck of an experience.
Okay. Yeah, and of course Griffin Dunn, of course, American Werewolf in London. He was also in After Hours.
Yep.
Yeah, he very accomplished and very underrated.
Yeah, well, he kind of got out of the business a bit, not too long after that period. And I'm not sure. I know he shows up here and there, but yeah, I think I'm not sure if he went into being a producer or what, but I thought he was wonderful as a person, and I thought he was very funny. I mean, in all of his movies. Yeah, American Werewolf was tremendous.
Yeah, he played the walking meatloaf.
Right.
Yeah, another person that was in who's that girl, somebody I really loved her in 16 Candles, of course, was Haviland Morris, and I really like her.
Yeah, I didn't, once again, I didn't have really anything to do with her, but, I agree, yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, one of my favorite Canadian films is Class of 1984. And I've had 3 interviews on here: Lisa Langlois, Stefan Arngrim, and Mary Lynn Ross. And I did not see Class of 1999, which you were in.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't see it. It is listed in the Leonard Maltin movie guide as an official bomb.
Oh.
It didn't really work. It was like an ultra-violent high school. Where, the students were all carrying guns, and, people are getting, shot down and, strangled, and it was very violent, and, it was fun to work on, as are, most of these projects, but I don't think you missed too much with that one. Class of 1984 is a much better movie, I must say.
I love Class of 1984, and Lisa's manager has sent me quite a few guests on here, so I've had a wonderful connection there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. But
I've just gotten to know Lisa in the last little while through friends of Lynn's and mine, and it's been really nice to get to know her. She's a lovely person.
Yeah, I tell you, to get her on the phone to do an interview with her, it was just awesome, because I always loved Patsy in Class of 1984, so to have that connection was just a wonderful thing, and
pretty great.
And Mark Lester, I guess, directed Class of 1999, and I think he should have went in the same tone as he did with Class of 1984, I guess.
Yeah, it's once again, it's like you try and do a movie, sort of. And not really, well, sort of like a sequel, and it's tough to do. It's tough to do sequels.
But Malcolm McDowell, a.k.a. Clockwork Orange Alex, was in it.
I know, and I saw him briefly, but once again, I had no scenes with him. What was interesting, though, is working on Back to the Future 3, Mary Steenburgen, who had been married to Malcolm McDowell. I was working with her on that, and I remember her saying, it was interesting, spending a good part of my life living with Alex the Droog, which is with a sense of humor, but sounds like it was interesting. But I know I would have given anything to have time to spend with Malcolm McDowell, because his Alex is just, an iconic, amazing performance.
It is.
And I'd love to have just been able to say thank you for doing that,
And how he didn't get an Oscar nomination, I'll never figure that out.
I know. Maybe it was just that, it was just too unnerving for people at the time.
Yeah.
They just kind of got scared of him. Because it's like, did De Niro get nominated for Taxi Driver?
No, he didn't. No, he did not.
Yeah. So once again, you go, it's like these bust-out amazing performances, but they're these dark, intense movies that it's almost like they scare the Academy members away a little bit, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, what I thought was funny, Dolores Claiborne wasn't up for any Oscars, and I heard that
Yeah.
they did not even see the movie. And how could you bypass Kathy Bates, David Strathairn, Christopher
Yep.
Plummer, and Jennifer Jason Leigh in that?
I know. Yeah, well, I mean, you could you could go on all day about the movies that didn't get, the Oscar attention, because it's like, and some of the ones that did, you go, why? But it's a strange system, and you just go, you have your own Oscar winners in your own life, I guess,
Yeah, and of course, class of 1999 had some interesting cast in it. You had Tracy Lynn, Stacy Keach, Pam Grier.
Yep.
So you had some
Oh, yeah.
good backup. And of course, you mentioned Back to the Future 3, and I saw that when it originally came in theaters.
Right.
I don't remember you in it because it was my least favorite of the three movies, because I felt that when they went back in the West, it kind of lacked the innovation that the first two kind of had.
Well, it definitely was. It was a very different movie, and it actually focused more on Christopher Lloyd and Mary Steenburgen's relationship, and it was a very different movie. I mean, working on it was a blast, because I mean, you talk to most people in Hollywood, and the chance to do a Western is a little rarer than it used to be, and it's just so much fun. It's just riding horses, shooting guns, being dirty. Because I played one of the in each movie, there's the Butthead gang, sort of the Biff's,
Okay.
or in the case of Back to the Future 3, Buford's sort of hangers-on, to help him in his nefarious schemes. I played one of those guys, so it's like we're playing bad guys. They yellow our teeth. We're in real Western gear, and we're riding horses and getting paid for it. It was just like, I went, well, this is about as much fun as I can imagine.
Okay.
And Amblin Studios actually built a small Western town. It's a permanent set in Northern California now. It's used for other Westerns and commercials and stuff. But yeah, they built a functioning Western town for that movie, with a small gauge railroad at the bottom of the town. It was kind of extraordinary, and to get to work with Robert Zemeckis as well as Michael J. Fox and Chris Lloyd, pretty amazing.
Michael J. Fox, of course, played Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, I feel so bad for Michael J. Fox. He's going through some tough times.
Of course he is, but he's done amazing work for Parkinson's research. He's put his name to the cause in such a powerful way, and it's like you go, yeah, it's a heck of a turnout for someone who was who was so talented and had such a bright, burning career. But he's truly, I think, made the best of the circumstances, and you can't help but applaud that.
And he, of course, was also in class of 1984.
Yep.
Yeah, that might have been his first feature. I'm not sure on that, but
that's quite possible.
That's quite.
I think
possible.
it might have been. I think it might have been.
Yeah. Well, what was he and Christopher Lloyd like to work with?
Well, Michael, the problem for Michael is that, he was such a star at the time that they kind of kept him sequestered away a lot of the time, because even, there was always a lot of extras on the set, because it was a whole, town and everything. And, he would get besieged with people wanting to talk to him and take up his time. And he was generous and sweet, but he had a job to do, and a ton of work to do, and so they kept him kind of separate. But he did, they did let him out occasionally for like parties and stuff, because we were all in this Sonora, California, in the Gold Rush country. We're all living in this small town, but they kept him up in a private residence. But he got to join us for some of the parties, and he and I played pool together, and he just seemed like, a really terrific guy and just a consummate professional. And Chris Lloyd, I actually knew someone who went to college with him, and his nickname in college had been Fog, F-O-G, which kind of suited him, certainly in a lot of the characters he'd played. And I actually, when we first met, I said, this friend of mine says hi and want to know how you're doing, Fog. And he just looked at me like, no one's called me that in years. And but the nice thing for him is that, and it's true for character actors a lot more than stars, he could put on a hat and sunglasses and wander around in the town we were all staying in, and nobody recognized him, and he could just sort of go about his business. But Michael, being, who he was and how he looked, he couldn't go anywhere without sort of being besieged. And, you go, there is that downside to being a big star. It's like you can't really, live the life of a normal person much. And there are a lot of nice things that go along with it too. But I think it was tough, But just amazing talent.
Yeah, and the only other film I got listed here from 1988, The In Crowd.
That was the first feature I worked on. It was a dance movie. It was about the dance scene in Philadelphia, and we filmed in Philadelphia. Sort of when American Bandstand first came about, and they used an actual a real show that was on in the 60s that was sort of a competition to American Bandstand. And the shows were these local kids, and usually kids from tough neighborhoods who had really perfected these very complicated dances that they would do. And they would come on these local TV shows, and they danced to records, and kids would watch these shows and learn the dances, and they would pick certain people who were on the show every week as, who's their favorite and stuff. And it was a sort of coming of age story. But I got to dance with some Broadway dancers, because most of the cast were, real dancers from New York. And I had dancing training, but nothing like this. And they would, we'd have 8 hours a day of dancing rehearsals. And the girl who played my girlfriend, Charlotte Dembois, who has been in a lot of Broadway shows, she would take me aside and work with me even longer because she knew I was, trying to play catch up. But yeah, the movie didn't do a lot of business, but it was actually pretty good. But it came out about the same time as Dirty Dancing.
You know what? I'm not a fan of Dirty Dancing.
No,
I like the soundtrack. I just found the movie so formulaic, and I think it's one of the most overrated movies ever made. Dirty Dancing, Yeah, great soundtrack album. That's all I can say.
Yeah, well, it's not one of my favorites. I've watched it, and it didn't. It's not like, I wouldn't. I would never call it a favorite movie. But yeah, it just, I don't know. Some movies just capture a certain moment, and people of a certain age or whatever, a certain way of thinking, just go crazy for it. And it didn't do us any favors.
Like I think Saturday Night Fever was so much better.
Oh yeah, it was just altogether a better film. Yeah, I agree.
I want to know, how did you meet Lynne Griffin, your wife, of course, of Black Christmas and Curtains and Strange Brew?
Well, I'm from the States originally, or as I actually like to say, I'm from the Republic of San Francisco. Okay. Just because San Francisco has always been sort of its own independent world from the rest of the U.S. And I had gone to school in drama, and I moved to L.A. doing a solo play. I got representation, and Lynn had just done Strange Brew. Okay. And had moved to the States, and we both got cast in a play at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego, which is a Tony Award-winning regional theater, and several shows have gone to Broadway from there. And the day Lynn and I met, we kind of fell in love. And we were both in relationships, and it was all very complicated. But literally, the end of 1987 to now, we've been together.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I noticed on Facebook, first it was Leslie Donaldson, and then it was Lynne Griffin mentioned that it's snowing. Is it snowing in Toronto?
Not today, but it was yesterday and the day before. Winter's here.
Oh, we get hit bad here. Not yet, but January through March. Ugh.
Oh, you will be. I know that. I mean, I've been in Halifax in the winter, and I know they get hit pretty hard. But you guys, you'll get it. Yeah.
Oh, please don't say that. I was going to say.
Just wait.
What?
Just wait.
Yeah. I was going to say, we mentioned Lisa Langlois earlier. I mentioned something to Lynn last time I had her on. I don't know if she related it to you guys, the Doubtfire face challenge.
No.
When you remember the ice bucket challenge?
Right.
Yeah. Well, there was another challenge came out after that, and in the wake of Robin Williams' unfortunate passing, and it was called the Doubtfire Face Challenge, and it involves taking a pie in the face and nominating 3 people.
She did mention that to me.
Well, Lisa Langlois accepted my challenge.
Good for her.
Oh, I as a result, I made a donation to one of her charities. I made a couple donations. And Leslie Donaldson hasn't done it yet, but I know that she said she's going to do it.
And Lynn is going to do it. We were talking about it, but we've been on this sort of crazy schedule, but it's absolutely going to happen, and I'm absolutely going to throw a pie in her face.
I want you guys I want you guys both to do it and nominate people in the industry if you can.
We will.
Because I want to get that out there.
I love that idea.
Yeah, because, it's funny because the Ice Bucket Challenge brought in so much money and awareness for ALS, and I didn't know what ALS was, and now somebody close to me has it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, somebody very close to me has it, and it brought awareness to that, and I was like... I've never been suicidal, but I've struggled with depression. I was really glad that Lisa Langlois connected with me on that. And I did a video, and I drew names from people I interviewed, but I threw Lisa's in automatically because she's Canadian. And,
right.
And she did it, and I got the video up on my YouTube channel, and she was wonderful. And Nancy McLaughlin from Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great.
And I'm trying to get as many people as I can on board with this because, they don't take depression seriously. It's like they think you just got to get over it.
No, I know, and I think it's absolutely true. And I've been close to people who have had chronic depression, and it is truly a disease, and it's true it doesn't get addressed seriously enough, but it is, it is truly potentially life-threatening, and it needs to be, dealt with in a serious way, and that does take money, and especially doing something that is so sweetly funny and sort of classically comic to raise awareness and to raise money. It's just a brilliant idea. So yes, we are absolutely going to do it.
I love the old pie in the face joke. I would trade sex scenes in movies for pie scenes. Second.
I would too. And pie, because I actually did a kids series where we had to do pies in the face, and it is both hard to take a pie in the face and it's hard to throw a pie in a face. Because we were doing like whipped cream pies, and it's like if you don't close your eyes before that hits you in the face, the sugar in your eyes is unbelievably painful.
Well, in this here, you get to mush it so you don't miss.
Right.
But
that's true.
But you know what? If you're still in touch with Paul Feig, imagine the connections he'd have in nominating people.
That's true, and I can totally imagine Paul doing that. Maybe I have to challenge him.
Because think of the people he could nominate.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's quite a world of pie faces.
Yeah. But yeah, I wanted to try to get this out there, and I think it's sad it took losing Robin Williams to.
No, that truly broke my heart. I didn't even realize how hard that hit me until a few days later, and just realizing how literally from Mork and Mindy on, how inspired I'd been by Robin Williams and how devastating that loss was. And but once again, if you can make some sort of silver lining and work towards maybe fewer people getting into that horrible place, it takes a little bit of the sting out of it, maybe.
One person I want to see do it, and I can't nominate her because I don't have the connections to do it, but I'm hoping it gets to her, is Emma Stone, because I've been following her since Superbad. And I could see her doing it.
Yeah, it's just getting someone who's,
But people generally, like my video has got like 77 hits since April, and because nobody knows who I am. Lisa's got over 500 in a week.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you want to get it to people who are going to have that kind of,
And Nancy McLaughlin, when she did hers, she brought out props from Jason Lives, from 30 years ago, and used that as part of her background. And
that's great.
Yeah, so I thought I would throw that out there. And of course, Lynn knows lots of people. I told her, I said, go after Margot Kidder, go after Olivia Hussey.
Yeah.
Go after them,
Go after Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
They'd probably do it.
Yeah, I don't know what Rick is doing. He's kind of although I admire the fact with Rick that, it's sad that his wife has passed away, but the fact that he would put his career on hold to raise his kids, what an admirable thing, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. It's just like, finding your priorities.
Yeah. Well, Sean,
I'm going to have to go because I've got to get to a rehearsal.
I'm about to close off, but I just have a couple things here. Number one, when this gets podcasted out, and it probably won't be till next year because even Lynn's hasn't come out yet, I will send the link to you, and you can send it post it wherever you please.
Okay.
And eventually after that, it's going to go on my YouTube channel. And I wanted to know if I had your permission to use any headshots to go along with the audio.
Oh, absolutely.
And like I asked Lynn, too, I'd love to get an autographed picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Do I just message you on Facebook?
Yeah, that would be great.
You mind if I friend you on Facebook?
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh,
absolutely.
I'd be most honored.
Absolutely, Greg.
The last thing I'll leave you with, would you please do a plug for my show?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just state your name. Say you're listening to Greg Gilbert. My show is called Python's Paradise just say even just New Brunswick, Canada.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to write this down so that I don't get it wrong. Greg Gilbert.
And of course, you played the great Suicide and Ski Patrol.
And it's Python.
Yeah, Python, like the snake. Python's Paradise, yeah.
It's a great nickname.
Yeah, I love African wildlife. Actually, I go by Python Hyena because they're two of the most underappreciated animals on the planet, and yet their role in the environment is so important.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll do my. So it's just you're listening to Greg Gilbert in New Brunswick, or
just say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise, and if you want to say Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada.
All right. Hi, this is Sean Sullivan. You're listening to Greg Gilbert with Python's Paradise from Fredericton, New Brunswick.
There you go. Well, Sean, thank you so much for the honor and privilege of coming on here. What a joy. And you tell Lynn I said hello. I'm still reaching out to some of the people on her friends list there for interviews, so hopefully I'll be able to shake those apple trees. But I'll send you out a friend's request and I bid you God bless you today. And
right back at you, Greg.
And boy, I loved you in Ski Patrol.
Thanks a lot, Greg.
God bless you, man.
Take care.
Take care, and tell Lynn I said hello.
I will.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Greg.
Yeah.